talk to my brother for hours. As a 9, I created this whole story about how wonderful my family was as a 9 peacemaker. But everyone in my family is an 8.
Wow.
And my mother's an 8-9, and she related to me as a 9 because my 9 part, I'm a 9-8, so often how you relate to someone will bring out a different part of themselves.
Okay, so everything, sorry for interrupting.
That's okay.
Ira was very excited. He says, I've got a story. So everything is set. I've already started the record button.
Okay.
And once I close this door and get behind the window, do a count of 5, and then introduce yourself.
I'm going to count of 5, or you're going to count us down, or?
Can you see in the window?
No.
Can you see the window?
Some of it.
So
Very
I'm
corner.
going to let you do your count. You can do 5, 4,
Okay.
and then silently count 3, 2, 1, but already have everything rolling.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Everybody
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Okay.
Like March, April, May. That's not too long to manifest this from when I met you on Valentine's Day.
You're right. It's
3
good.
months.
This is good. And the timing worked out perfectly.
And we're on the cusp of Gemini here.
Yep.
Tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? Is that
Tomorrow,
right? Tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And Mercury's
I'm gonna give
retrograde.
you a countdown because that'll make you feel better about it.
Thanks, Erica.
All right?
Okay.
Okay. Quiet on the set. Everybody. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Ready? In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Just Curious with Maribeth Swan. I'm so excited to have 2 very special guests with me tonight. Dr. Lloyd Sheldon Johnson, who is a healer, a shaman, a medium, a psychology professor. And then we have Mr. Herb Pierce, who is an intuitive. He is an Enneagram man. He is a leader of workshops and a teacher and a counselor of all sorts. So I want to welcome you both to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight. I would love to know where you're from and how you found yourself in Boston.
Good question. I am from Michigan originally, from Detroit originally. I was born in Detroit. Both my parents were born in Detroit. And I went to undergraduate school there. And when I was applying to graduate school, I said I would either go west or east. So I applied to graduate school at Harvard, and I applied to graduate school at Stanford. I said, whichever school contacts me is the one I'm going to. That's the coast I'll be on. And then I panicked at the last minute, and somebody said, well, suppose you don't get into either one of the schools. So then I started applying everywhere just to be safe. But I ended up here, years ago. So I've been in Boston longer than I lived in Detroit.
So it feels like home now.
It is home.
It is
Cambridge is home.
Great.
Yeah.
And Herb, what about yourself?
Well, I'm from the South. I'm originally from Kentucky. I was there for 10 years. My father was in the Army, so we moved around a lot.
Okay, because I don't detect a drawl or
I know,
anything.
but I actually identify as being from Louisiana because I lived there from 10 on, except for 2 years in Texas.
Okay.
Of course, it's really Louisiana if you live there.
Louisiana, yes.
But Shreveport, Louisiana is, and I go there every year to visit at least
Wow.
once, if not more. So I feel it's like my second
Connected.
and I feel very, Southern, and yet I definitely feel like the best of both worlds.
Both worlds. And so
Yeah.
how did you end up in Massachusetts?
I was in the Navy for 4 years. I was stationed on an aircraft carrier in Quonset Point, Rhode Island, and from there I met a woman at a meditation retreat. I was doing transcendental meditation while I was in the Navy.
Oh, so I was doing that too. That's interesting.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting. That was one of my first consciousness things. I'd put a sign on my door as a person element that I was meditating, and they'd sometimes get angry, but whatever. I was kind of unusual for the Navy. So I met her at a meditation retreat, and we got married, and she's lived in Harvard Square, so I got introduced to that. It's so different than the world I lived in. And then we went out to California. I went to photography school and came back here, and she left me then.
Oh.
And I got stranded in Boston.
Wow.
It could be worse.
Wow. Okay. You don't strike me as someone who had been in the military.
I was like McHale's Navy. I was actually the first race relations teacher in the Navy.
Wow.
1971. There was 4 of us that taught a course at sea. It was a mandatory course because there were some problems. There were some riots on ships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at that time.
Yeah.
So how would you describe, Lloyd, we'll go first with you, the work that you do now?
Well, I am an intuitive counselor. I hate the term psychic, but I guess I'm using intuition in my work. And what I do is I've had my practice for 30 years. People come and see me, and they give me their full name and date of birth, and I just take everything from there. I take 4 pages of notes, I write down everything. I give them 2 questions to ask at the end of the reading, but I do not solicit anything from them that is going to help to steer what I am picking up intuitively from them. So I just write what comes to me, and I give them the notes when I finish doing the reading. So I've been doing this for, as I said, I've had my practice for 30 years in Cambridge, and because I trained in psychotherapy, a lot of those skills have helped me, in terms of being able to manage trauma with people and being able to share with things that, from their past lives and from this life that may be a little hard for them to manage in some way. So there's a way that I can temper what I tell them so that it's going to be of some benefit to them and help empower them in some way.
So you are receiving the energy from them.
From them, it comes from them.
From them, not from outside.
Well, it comes from them, but from them in all their dimensions and all their iterations.
Okay.
So it's like stuff that has happened in their past or past lives, stuff that's happening currently, and things that might happen or will happen in the future.
In the future, wow. Really special work. And Herb, how would you describe the work you do now?
I have to say, we're going to have to do a trade because that sounds fascinating. I want to let's do that. My specialty really is relationship coaching. I call myself a relationship coach. So I particularly see couples, sometimes families, sometimes individuals in a relationship. But I'm really good at intuiting what's going on in a relationship. And I use the Enneagram personality types as well as the Myers-Briggs and sometimes astrology.
Okay. I know people are familiar, sorry to interrupt you, with Myers-Briggs and with astrology, but you're known as the Enneagram man.
Right.
And a short little research that I did upon taking the test was that Ennea comes from the Greek number 9.
Right.
And it's divided into 9 personality types.
Right.
How would you expound on that to explain to the layperson what an Enneagram profile is, so to speak?
This system of knowledge purports that there are 9 basic personality styles, but within each style there's tons of differences. So there's really hundreds of Enneagram types, and I've been doing this over 25 years now, so I can really get fine-tuned. Within each type there's as many as 6 different types within each type, separate from the sequence of your types. Like I would be a 974 in that sequence. So when I'm working with someone in more depth, we really get subtle with it. And particularly with relationship dynamics, it's highly predictable if this type is with this type, and particularly the subtypes, or a sexual subtype with a social subtype. It's so predictable what will happen, and it takes some of the personalness out of the relationship, and you can look at it very objectively.
Scientifically.
Yeah.
And what led you to the Enneagram?
I think all my life I've been extremely sensitive to conflict. I just like when people, raise voices and get upset and fight. I mean, I grew up in a family where there was some fighting and such, and it was very distressing to me. And I think I just, as a kid, I said, I want to do something in the world to have people get along better.
And it's so interesting, Herb, because the times in the past that I've spent with you doing workshops, and also when I had you come and do some workshops with students that I was working with, you do have this very, very calming, peaceful nature. And I noticed that even when I did the 3 workshop with you one time, there were some people who were going at it, and you just have a way of just really have a cup of tea and go have some snacks and let's talk about this, which is really very, very wonderful, because most people are very, very explosive when it comes to them, not wanting to let go of their issues that are affecting their lives in a positive way, or in a negative way, and they just really hold on to a lot of that tension, a lot of that stress, and you have a way of just really helping people to step back and understand what's happening, and just to be calm and chill, which I think is wonderful. Yeah,
I'm a peacemaker, type 9, and that's natural for me. There's no effort involved in being that way. And I feel like that's my gift, exactly what you're saying, is just calm things down, and let's try to look at this a little bit detached, but with caring and love and compassion. And
in a safe environment. I think when I spoke to you on the phone, the term that you used was undefend. I'm good at getting people to undefend.
Oh, yes.
And I
yes.
have shared that
Mhm.
amongst my peers and your name as well
Yeah, yeah.
as something that's thought-provoking, because people do get defensive when they're confronted with issues with their relationship or their family.
Absolutely. People get threatened. I mean, I get threatened myself. We're all similar in a way.
We're
If-
human.
If someone's challenging the way we think and operate, but that's what's great about the Enneagram. It really forces you to enter that other type world. Like the 3 type world is so interesting to me, and the 4 type world. So over the years now, I've entered each type deeply in myself so that I can feel and understand and be something that's way beyond what I used to be.
And I think a lot of that has to do also with your intuitive nature.
Yeah.
Because I know that for me, I was just like canvassing my mind and my life fairly recently and looking at all of the workshops I've done over the years. You mentioned transcendental meditation. I've done dimensional mind approach.
me too, I did that.
Yes, I've done the Silva method.
Yeah.
I've done recently Marconics. I've done I think about 9 or 10
Oh,
different
yeah.
processes over the
Yeah.
years, and each time I've done something, it has really empowered me personally, and it's helped me to be able to help the people that I work with. Because if you're dealing with people and you're sharing, intuitive information that's coming from them, a lot of times they are more accepting of that because of where it's coming from than they would be from someone telling them something that is very, very direct. And most people are so amazed by the connection between what's being intuited and what they see as being reality. And there are multiple realities.
Many
Realities.
Yeah.
And there are many ways to live. And so I have even started to branch off a little bit into doing dream analysis because I'm just really fascinated by what comes up in dreams. So people say, well, I don't really dream. I said, you know what? If I meditate and let go, I just go into a dream state. I mean, I probably have like 5 or 6 dreams a night.
Oh, me too.
And it's just incredible.
Yeah.
And it's a different world.
Yeah, yeah. I had a conflict with someone about a week ago, and that same night, I dreamed that I was in a tsunami with myself and my son. I don't have a son, but this person was saying that I sometimes am more like a child, like an excited child, and not enough parent. So here I was parenting my son, swimming in the tsunami because the conflict. Dreams are so
It is
fascinating.
it's
So
incredible.
powerful.
They're so powerful, and they're so interesting, the symbols, because the brain just reconstructs all of these things into this story, and all of your conflicts are just embedded in this story in the dream. It's just wonderful.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get excited about dreaming
Oh, yeah.
because I want to see what's gonna happen, what's gonna come up.
So Herb came to his work through the conflict that started in his family and
Yes.
intuitively trying to heal that. Lloyd, what about you and where your intuitive sense?
Well, you know what? It's important to share that when I was doing some training through Harvard Medical School, there was a psychiatrist who told me that I was not a good therapist. He said, "You're just intuitive." And so then I kind of ran with that. And then right around this time, maybe a little after that, I was doing a lot of meditating. I was embracing Buddhism and a lot of other different modalities. And then I thought about that, and then I just started. I mean, I was always sharing with friends, all the time anyway. So I would be on the phone until like 2, 3 in the morning talking to people and just sharing stuff.
Yeah.
And it just started happening. And so then before I knew it, it's like some years after that, I went to a psychic fair in Peabody. And then I just had this message and this guidance that you can do that. And so I said, well, what tools do I need to do it? So you know how you have these conversations with your spirit guides. And so I said, well, I'm going to need a crystal ball. So I didn't have a crystal ball. So then now I have about 8 or 9 crystal balls. But at any rate, I was on my way. I went to Bermuda, and I was in Hamilton, because I go to Bermuda a lot. I was in Hamilton, and I was at, I think it was Trimmingham's, and I looked in the window, and there was a crystal ball there. My heart started racing. I said, oh my God, I have to get this crystal ball. So it was a huge crystal ball. So I go inside and I said, I'd like to see the crystal ball in the window. And so the woman said, oh, sure. So she gives me the crystal ball. I look at it and I said, this one is not right. Do you have another one? She said, I don't think so. I said, I think you do. Go and look in the back. So she came out with the other crystal ball, and that's the crystal ball that I purchased and I've had for
The first one.
the first one.
Wow.
I've had that forever. It stays in my office because it's so heavy.
Yeah.
But and people say, well, what do you get from the crystal ball? It's like a tool. It's
Yeah,
like it's holding energy. You know, I gaze into it, I hear things, I see things,
Yeah.
I write things. So it's coming
Yeah,
from all these
yeah.
different areas of consciousness, and I just record what comes. You know? And it's been fascinating for me because I started using it, you know, in my therapy, and then I stopped doing traditional therapy and just started doing this kind of work. And I tell my clients, I am not your therapist, so don't try to schedule a reading every 2 weeks because I will not see you, or every 4 months. It's not happening.
Once
So
a year, twice a year? How
twi-
often
I
should
think
people
twice a
come
year
see
is
have
great.
a
And
reading?
a lot of people who have like a lot of stuff happening in their lives, you know, who work. I have a lot of people, clients who work in business, finance. They're always like something's changing all the time. So every 6 months is good, or every 4 months is good for people like this. You know?
Okay.
But I have clients all over the world, from all over the world.
Wow, that's cool.
Because you can do this over the phone as well?
I don't do any stuff over the phone.
Okay.
I do things written, you know, or else in person.
Okay.
So I travel to different places. I go to Bermuda, New York, Chicago. I was going to Florida a lot, so I have clients. And a lot of people, when they're traveling, they will plan their trips around when they'll even have
Around
an
you.
appointment, you know,
Wow.
here. So it's been exciting. And I say this humbly, I have helped so many people, and that makes me feel
Yeah.
so good inside
Yeah.
that I've been able to help people.
Yeah, me too. I
And
mean,
you as well,
I'd
Herb.
li- you know, for me, for two people to be in conflict, if I do something so that they're less in conflict, not only less in conflict, but they're engaging and they understand each other, and they know the entry points into that other person's world.
Describe that entry point.
Well, for instance, I mean, like if someone is excited and positive and that sort of thing, I coach the other person who's not so much that way to say, you know, you need to, you know, focus a little on the positive and show some excitement and remember what's good, whereas someone's more questioning and analyzing and that sort of thing. And then that person, I might say, you know, you need to kind of go deeper with this and like not just stay on the surface with that excitement. So it's a question of seeing that you actually were attracted to that in the first place. You wouldn't have gotten together otherwise. And so like, don't deny what you need to learn and grow to be in that world. Otherwise, if you really can't bridge those world differences, you know, there's a good chance you'll break up.
And you know, the thing that's so great about what you do, and you know, I'm thinking about the workshops I've done with you, is that there is no judgment there, which I think is so wonderful. And I find that to be true in my work, and it makes it easier to read people when they just relax and let go, knowing that you're not being judged. Some things just are,
Yeah.
and some things you have to manage and deal with. And you know, I can just think of countless situations with clients that I've had where things just start to manifest, where they manifest during the course of the reading, they manifest afterwards. You know, someone will say, well, this makes absolutely no sense to me. And I said, well, I'm just taking the notes for you. I don't disclose anything about my clients, but I will share a few stories. There was a guy who came to see me some years ago. And when he came, I told him, I said, there's going to be some kind of devastation in your family that you're going to have to deal with. Everyone in the family is going to have to deal with over the next 4 or 5 months, but you'll all come out of it. You're going to be a stronger family as a result. And the job that you have now working with this, this tech company, you won't be working there anymore. You're going to be doing some writing, and you're going to, your name is going to appear in some really very, very important publications. So the guy said that when he left, and you know, the other information, he said, oh, God, I thought that you were really whack because I have this great job, with this
Yeah.
computer company and the
Yeah.
startup, blah, blah. I'm not leaving that. Well, about a year later, he came back to see me, and he told me, he said, after I came to see you, he said, about a few months after that, my father-in-law passed away, and it really, really devastated the entire family,
Yeah.
brought us closer together. He just said, and after that, I started writing,
Wow.
and then he had something published
Yeah.
in the New Yorker,
Yeah, wow.
which is a big deal.
Yeah,
And so now writing is a very important part
yeah,
of his life.
yeah.
It's like,
You never know. I mean,
never know.
I never ever thought I'd write books. I mean, I've written a few things, but I've written 5 books now, and I have like 5 more in my head.
In your head. And you're writing about Enneagram?
3 of the books are on the Enneagram.
Okay.
There's a basic and an advanced Enneagram called Beyond the Basics, and one called the Caregiver's Enneagram I just finished.
and then you have the Enneagram for Dummies, right?
Yeah, well, the Enneagram Basics is the edited book of the Idiot's Guide to the Enneagram.
Idiot's
so
Guide,
now
yeah.
it's called.
That's the one I have.
Now it's called Enneagram Basics.
Uh-huh.
It's updated a little bit, So I have 3 books on that. And
Okay.
the last one's on, caring for like parents or relatives or spouses, particularly in the end of life kind of thing, journey, so how the types interface. That just came out. And there's a book on whitewater canoeing, which has been a hobby for 30 years, called Lessons from the River. And it's a kind of a tips book about life from canoeing, from whitewater canoeing experience.
Which
These-
can be kind of hairy. I did that for the
Very.
first time this summer.
Really?
It's been
Yes.
What's that? I don't think I want to do that.
It's been the biggest challenge of my life to become actually pretty expert at whitewater
That's
canoeing.
good.
Have you been on the Millers in Connecticut?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry, Massachusetts.
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
yes.
that was where the first river I went
Yeah,
down.
and I've been the last 5 trips I've gone alone on the.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that
yeah, on the
recommended?
St. Croix. It's not recommended. I don't recommend this.
Please don't do that.
Don't
Don't
do
do
that.
that. But it's a river I've done so many times. I feel pretty confident, even though there's been many times where I was so close to swamping, which would not have been good. But for me, that's been my biggest physical challenge in
And
life.
you're still calm,
Yeah,
And you're still-
yeah,
even as
yeah.
you talk about it.
right. Yeah.
I just want to draw back, as both of these gentlemen are healers, the one of the cornerstones is the non-judgment and how people feel so comfortable in coming to talk to you and get advice and recommendations. And I feel that energy with you both here. It's a great vibe
Yeah.
in here, everybody.
Yeah.
Now, I was asking about mentors, and was this person at Harvard who told you that you weren't?
Oh, let me tell you this. Well,
I
no,
would
I
love
don't
to
even.
hear-
I don't even know what happened to him. But let me
Okay.
it's great that you mentioned mentors, because I'll tell you this quick story. There was when I first came here to go to graduate school, in Central Square in Cambridge, there was a unfinished furniture store that was owned by a family, a Jewish family that had this store for years. And I went to the store one day to buy some bookcases, and I ended up talking to a guy there, and his name was Morris. And we just, he had just like really, really fascinating eyes that like were really just so powerful and just filled with such great energy. And he and I became really, really close, but we talked about spiritual stuff all the time. And I could be in Harvard Square and something would click in my head and say, go see Morris. And then I would go see him and he would say, oh, I knew you would come because I just sent for you. And then we just got really connected. Well, he ended up divorcing, and then he moved to an apartment, and then he invited me because he really started doing his real work. And I went to a party he had one time, and there were like hypnotists there, and all these people that I really love to do all the same kind of work that I do and was starting to do and that he does. And so then I kind of lost contact with him. When I lost contact with him, I think he went to California and did a ton of work in California, sleeping in the desert, doing work with Native Americans. I mean, just on and on and on. Well, I was teaching a class at Boston College, and I got on the train at Boston College, and I was coming back into Boston, and I thought to myself, I said, I wonder what happened to Morris. Here is my hand. The next stop, he got on the train. I said, oh my God. And then we reconnected. Fast forward, last year and a half ago, I said, I wonder what happened to Morris. He has to be older now. I wonder what happened to him. So I go, the store is gone. As a matter of fact, his mother is on the mural that's on the wall by the Middle East in Central Square. His family is really a well-known. I think he went to Cambridge when it was Cambridge Latin School, and before when Rindge was separate. I think he went to school there. But at any rate, fast forward. So then I'm on this quest to find him, and I said, I know that he is. I don't think he's crossed over. So I go online and I find a furniture store, used furniture store, where the family store is now in Watertown. So then I get in touch with his brother, because I met his brother years ago, and then I get on the phone and his niece is there. The store is only open a couple of days a week. And so I tell, she said, oh, you're talking about my Uncle Maurice. Well, I said, yes, I call him Morris, but Maurice. And so.
Maurice Rothman?
Yes.
Oh, he's a good friend of mine.
And so guess what? I told her, tell him to call me. So he calls me. He's living in Hull. So I had been out to see him twice. Now I went to see him, and then because he is like incredible, and he told me, he said, I want you to bring people around so we can share this knowledge and this wisdom because I won't be around forever. Now, he is 92 years old.
92, yeah.
He's 92. He goes to India every year for 6 weeks. He just got back from India. He goes to an ashram there every year for 6 weeks. He just got back
Wow.
because I was just in touch with him. And I went out to visit with him before he went to, latter part of last year. And I told him I wanted to tape him. So I talked to him and we just had conversations about spirituality and reality and the world and life and people and on and on and on. And he has been a mentor for me over the years.
Okay.
Not a formal mentor,
Yeah.
but he gets it and I get it. And I just love him. He is just absolutely wonderful.
What a great story.
Oh, he's just incredible. And he's like, he told me he's like, I think he'll be 93.
Yeah, yeah.
And still goes to
Yes.
India.
No, I've known him for 35 years. Well, I used to do psychic readings at psychic fairs a long time ago. I haven't. And he's
Okay.
the one that told me, Herb, you need to do this.
Yes, he
So
is
he-
incredible. And I didn't even know that
I've known
Such
him
a
for.
small-
He's
small
given me
world.
many tarot readings. And matter of fact, I think I'll see him soon because I haven't seen him in years, and he's
well,
invited
you know
me
what?
to see
Maybe
him.
you and I can drive out to Hull
I
because
would
when I
love
went out
to.
there the first
I would
time
love
to see him after I had contacted him, I took him to dinner. We went to a Chinese restaurant right there in Hull. Now it's so funny because here I am, almost 6'4", around 6'4", and he's like short,
Oh, yeah,
and he's
yeah.
like a little disheveled because he's just not concerned about
Yeah.
his appearance. And so we walk into this shop, and I had a suit on, and I'm thinking it's like people are going to try to figure out like. How are these two together?
Connected, yeah.
And then we leave, and he wants to go to the supermarket to get some organic bananas and stuff. So then we go to the market together, and we walk in, and people are like looking and scratching their heads, like, this doesn't fit, but it fits because our spirits are
Yeah,
so
yeah,
linked,
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And there's just such love that I have for him that,
Yeah.
when I left him, when he was leaving, I left the last time I saw him, because his trip was coming up. I said, okay, Maurice, when you get back, I'll come back out to visit again. We'll have dinner and talk. He said, oh, yes, come. He said, Lloyd, just come and you plan to spend the night so that we can just talk and talk and talk, because that's what we do. And I said, I love you. He said, I love you too, and I'll talk to you when I get back. It's just wonderful.
Oh,
He's just
yeah.
wonderful.
Well,
That's an
good.
amazing story.
When you first mentioned his name, I thought that's who it was, even though
Well, he told me that he thought his name was Morris
Oh,
until he had to get a passport to go to Israel some years ago.
Oh.
And then he found out that his name was really Maurice.
Strange,
Yes.
strange story. How were you connected to Maurice? How did you meet him?
Well, there was some psychic organization that I went to.
The
went
New
to-
England Society of
Yes.
Psychic
wonder if
Science
we knew-
Practitioners
Absolutely.
that he started. That's still
He
in
started.
existence.
Did
Maurice started?
Yes.
And I went to some of his classes, and he said, Herb, you need to be a reader. I said, okay. I just kind of went along with it, and I started doing readings and such. And
This is before the Enneagram.
a long time before the Enneagram. This would be like 33, 34 years ago.
Wow.
Okay.
I went through a period in my life then that I was having visions like all the time and traveling in space and leaving my body. And I've left my body many times. This is another topic.
I have
Can you
too.
stay here right now? with
No,
us,
right
though?
here
Okay,
I'm here,
thank
but
you.
the Enneagram is different. It's more grounding. But I've had a lot of psychic.
Well, the breathwork stuff that I've done in the
Yes,
past
I've
really just
really-
transcends the spirit to a
Yeah,
whole
another
different dimension.
I so want to hear about that, but I wanted to know, Herb, were there any specific people you can remember as mentors?
There's so many people. From 15 years, I attended workshops like every weekend. I just went to everything possible. So there's so many. Trying to think of anyone particularly stands out.
Well, I did the training with Tom Tam,
Yeah.
who does Tong Rin,
I
which
did
is
a lot, yeah.
which is a healing modality, and he has about an 80% success rate
Wow.
in dealing with cancer patients.
Does he?
He has been on Channel 7 News, so
Oh,
I did the
okay.
training with him probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm not one to drink the Kool-Aid. The year that I did the training with him, he does these healing classes at the Spalding Rehab every Sunday for
Called
free.
Tong Yin?
Tong Rin, Tongren, Tong Rin. And I went to, in 1 year, I went to about 26 or 27 of those classes on Sunday. Because I was just so fascinated with the work. And also I had sent a lot of my clients to see him who were healed of all kinds of ailments.
I'll keep that in.
So what he does is he talks about Western medicine is so focused on biochemistry.
Right.
We forget about bioelectricity. So he's integrating bioelectricity into the healing modality, and that's what's really working. It's incredible.
Fascinating. What's the breath
Breath
workshops
work
that
is,
you're
okay,
You said that
Oh,
Well, I
you've
used to,
done with her?
I've done a lot of breath work training on my own. I was using it a lot in my practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And breath work is a breathing technique that actually takes you into a transcendent consciousness.
Are you being hypnotized then if
No,
you're
no,
leading someone
breathing.
into that?
You're breathing and you're elevating and transcending.
And you
through
kind
the
of
breath.
leave the body. I
You
mean,
definitely
often
leave the body.
body.
You leave the
So
body.
anyway, a long time ago I did that. I forgot the person. You know,
Oh,
a
you know
lot
what? Leonard Orr? Was it Leonard
Leonard
Orr?
Orr. Leonard Orr. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's who it is. Yeah. So we've
And
had.
guess what? Leonard Orr was in, he lives in Virginia.
Okay.
He did a workshop that I went to, I think either last year or year before,
Wow.
at the center on Mass Ave in Arlington.
No
There's some
kidding.
yoga center
I
there.
didn't know that.
I went
Oh,
to
I
there,
didn't
and
know.
he was just there for like a day. And I
Okay.
went to the workshop there,
Yeah.
and we kind of reconnected. Because he had written a lot of books on breath work.
And I studied with Sandra Ray, which was
That was his ex-wife.
Oh, really?
I think they were married, yeah.
Full
Well,
circles.
I had just really quick story.
Sure.
I had attended a workshop with Sandra Ray. This is 30 years ago or so in New York City. I walked through Central Park, and I got mugged.
Wow.
And I was so transcendent, I talked them out of it. I didn't have any fear.
Mhm.
I was totally in command. They pulled a knife and actually
Mhm.
put the blade right in. They didn't stick it in, but there was like this. And I said, you can pull that away. I'm not going to harm you. And it wasn't a strategy. I was just in this transcendent space. Boy, today I don't know how that would be.
That is so funny that you mentioned that, because I had a similar experience in New York where someone was about to rob me, and I talked my way out of it calmly.
Yeah.
And then later, when I was back home
Oh, I was
and
saying, I
became
was like,
and became Lloyd again, I said, "Oh my
What the-
goodness, what happened?" You know.
Yeah.
But
Well, these were
stuff happens.
kids, and there were 6 kids, and they were young, and 2 of them stayed behind and apologized. I gave them a little money. I said, I'm only going to give you this much because I need to take a bus. Anyway, just I've had a
You
lot
gave
of
them a present after they tried to mug
I've had
you?
experiences like that on and off, and I'm just like everyone else. I get scared at times, and other times I feel this transcendent space. One thing that's influenced me is the Spiritualist Church. I go to the Spiritualist Church in Watertown.
Oh
And
God, I've been there too.
yeah, and,
Where
and
is
you
it
know
in
Reverend
Watertown?
Mary.
Yes, you know. So I used to go to the one in Swampscott when I
Yeah.
was living on the North Shore.
Right.
And then I just, whenever I feel like I need to get charged up, because I go to church regularly at Marsh Chapel at BU, but
Okay,
sometimes I
okay.
feel like I need to get charged up, so I've gone to that church a couple
Yeah,
of times.
yeah. Well, you know, the whole belief is a medium is there, and
Mhm,
they, you know,
yes.
they speak to you through someone who's deceased or a deceased relative. And my mother passed away 3 years ago, and she talks to me at times. You know. I'm trying to want to listen to her more just without that, but I'm into all these things too. Probably the biggest mentors have been other Enneagram teachers like Helen Palmer and Don Richard Riso, who passed away, and my brain's gone dead. Some others, but I attend a lot of. Besides teaching, I've attended a lot of workshops, Enneagram workshops.
So there have been many people.
Many people, it's just so many people.
Well, it's so funny that we share so many experiences in terms of things that we have done in the past. I didn't know that you've done a lot of these things. You didn't know that I've done so many of these things. And it's just really, it's almost as if for me that my spirit guides are always like moving me to learn more and learn more and learn more and learn more. And I know that there has to be some benefit to the people that I'm working with, because I keep, gathering all this knowledge and this wisdom and these new ways of doing things and sharing that with people. Using pendulums in my work and all these other tools that just come to you.
Yeah.
So when was the first time that the two of you met? Do you remember?
I was trying to think of that.
Did someone tell me about you and then I went to see you in Arlington?
Did you come to a workshop, or I
I don't even remember.
I was trying to remember too. I just can't remember.
I can't remember.
It was a long time ago.
I feel like I was introduced.
Oh, you know what? We were at a party together.
Yes.
It was the woman who's the filmmaker. Oh no, did I know you before then? You remember the woman who's the filmmaker?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes.
what's her name?
I know who you're talking about.
Yes, because she lived in Cambridge, I think. Was it at her party?
It might have been. The party thing feels right.
Maybe
I feel
about
like
10
we were
years ago.
introduced. Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe even longer.
It could have been longer than that.
I know who you're talking about.
I lost contact with her.
Yeah, she's in New York City.
Yes, and I remember.
I'm still in touch with her through a friend.
That's so interesting that.
Yeah, I think I'll yeah. Anyway.
And
Well,
then
that
after
was just
that-
one of the questions
yeah.
I thought was
Yeah,
because
yeah.
when I met Lloyd, I was telling him about Just Curious and that I would love to have him on the show, and that I really like to have two people who were interconnected in some way that would complement each other.
And I immediately thought about you.
Well,
And
that's
you were the
nice.
first
Thank you.
person,
Thank you.
and-
Thank you. That's nice to.
Yeah, you did
and then,
great
and then
energy here.
and then the way it started all coming together, which I think is very exciting, is that we have worked in this studio together before.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, when you were doing some of your work here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scout TV is a great community
Yeah.
and a place to share.
Matter of fact, just there's a man I've been taking care of for 4 years, and it relates to my book. And he passed away recently on Easter. Anyway, his daughter connected to me through this TV show that she saw, and that changed my life because I'm working with this man in this book and various things. So that anyway, the TV show was very instrumental
In
And-
reaching people.
in reaching people.
Well, we're so visual.
Yeah.
I think so many people read things and people are watching things online and whatnot, but the television station, it's community and community building.
And I've done a lot of TV and radio shows, talk shows, and other things, and they're so they're great. But people want to know what about themselves.
Oh, totally.
They just want a reading. I don't care about what you do. I want to know
Right.
because it's
Tell
all
me
about me.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
And so this is very nice because we're able to talk generally about the work that we do without having to focus on one particular person. I remember that I was flown to a TV station in Pittsburgh, and the host of the show, there were two hosts for the show, and you know, before we even went, you know, into the audience, well, come here, I want you to tell me about what's going to happen,
Right,
on and on. So it's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
about
People
that,
are
keeping
very
it up.
egocentric.
Totally. It's fine.
Well, I mean, that's who they are. So
But
that's
I-
what most of them are.
I think the fact that you're both healers is just so fascinating,
yeah.
and how many people that you help and the different ways in which you do so.
Yeah.
What is a question that I didn't ask that I should have?
That's a good
Anything
question.
you'd like to talk
Like,
about
you
that
know,
we haven't
just
touched
how,
on?
I mean, how I grow from, I mean, I honestly, I feel totally equal to everyone I work with. I feel so privileged that I can do what feels right to me for my growth. So like, I've let go of this whole idea that I'm here for you and blah, blah, blah.
It's so validating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. It's humbling and it's validating.
Yeah.
And when my clients leave and they tell me, I can't thank you enough for what you've done for me, it's just like, I said, oh no, I can't thank you enough for what you have done for me.
Exactly.
And they said, well, what do you mean? I said, you help me, I help. It's just like you don't even know how much I get from you.
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's one of the things, for me, I tell people all the time that, spirituality has really, really saved my life. And that, to be able to teach and impart knowledge and wisdom and to be able to do healing work with people is just so humbling for me. And it's the energy that really, really keeps me going all the time. It helps me to become a better person because there's just so much strife and hatred and pain in the world that, I'm always listening to my spirit guides about ways to just help people. Even today when I was going over the Gilmore Bridge, there was a guy who's there who's asking for money. And so today he came and I said, oh, remember me? I said, $1 a day. I gave you one yesterday. Here's another one. So he said, God bless you. I said, well, God bless you too. So we just like, and then people know you. So it's like to humanize people is just so important and not to be in judgment,
That's the number one thing, I think, the not to be in judgment.
Yeah.
And the two of you are so accepting and have such great energy coming
Thank you.
from both of you.
Thank you.
I think we're going to need to be wrapping up soon. Herb, was there anything that I should have talked about or asked you that I didn't ask you?
Well, I teach workshops on the Enneagram and for organizations and companies for team building to have people work together who are different.
And
so
people can find you at herbpierce.com.
herbpierce.com. That's P-E-A-R-C-E.
So the word peace is in your last name.
Yeah, right, it is. And often when I've been interviewed, they'll misspell it, Herb Peace.
Herb Peace. So they can find information
They
about
can
workshops.
find workshops and coaching, and I particularly work with relationship dynamics in my books, and I work by phone too.
Okay.
I would encourage people to really do an Enneagram workshop with you around their particular number, because that is just so fascinating for me, you know. I remember when I did one workshop, we started at 8, I believe, right? And it was like, when I left your place, it was like 11:45 or something.
We can't, it's hard to say.
I know, because we just kept going and going and going. It
Yeah,
was really
yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
I actually looked on your website about the workshops, and it said contact you, so there aren't any scheduled at the moment.
No,
You
not
wait
scheduled.
for
You know,
inquiries.
what I'm doing now is a little different than how I used to. I'm waiting for inquiries to teach, because most of my work now is one-on-one or couples or families, and yeah, so I'm doing more of that kind of thing, and I love for, like, just recently I did a mother-daughter and daughter-in-law combination, and we just worked together. So I love doing family, parent-child, kind of work whether grown children or not. So I'm doing more family-based, or workshops of friends who want to gather together and get closer and get to know each other.
Okay. And Lloyd, I know you told me that your website is in the works.
It's in the works. It's been in the works for a while. Hopefully it'll be up soon.
But if people Google your name, they can
would,
find
yes.
your phone
Lloyd
number.
Sheldon Johnson, yes, they can find me.
Well,
I can be
gentlemen,
found. I'm not hiding. I can be found.
come find these gentlemen, everybody. They have a lot of gifts and healing and great advice and perspective to offer. Thank you so much for
Thank you
coming
for
on
having
Just
me.
Curious
Thank you.
today.
Yes,
Herb, thank you
likewise.
so
You're
much.
quite welcome. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. We look forward to next time. Thank you. And I think then they like want you to chat, and they look like as they roll
Okay.
the credits.
No, this
we
is
look
great.
like
We could
we're
go on
just
for hours.
That's
we
true, we
could.
can.
I think that's
Well,
why
you know,
she
I
opened the
think
door because
listening